Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Software Engineer K here, and we have some pretty cool stuff. So I'm going to be going through exactly what I do in order to secure drops. I'm going to be showing you guys some examples, some tips and tricks that I haven't really spoken too much about. People who know me, they know, but I'm going to be showing you guys how to execute those to ensure that you have the maximum chance of securing success on the drops. I'm also going to be going through my views on the OMI utility program, what can be changed, and what I think is good about it. And lastly, we're going to be going through the price of OMI for today. So first off, recently, we've had these comic drops, and firstly, I wanted to point out a kind of a flaw in the way that the comics have been designed. So the comics, they came in after the collectible drops. Now, the collectible drops have obviously had some optimizations. I'm sure everyone has noticed that the timer syncs far more accurately on the comic drops. You don't get the cancel button pop up on your request, all of that stuff. So what I suspect had happened is when they decided to develop the drop for comics, rather than the comics and the normal collectible drops both having the same kind of optimizations inherited by both, what they seem to have done is they kind of copied and pasted the code. This is what I suspect, is they copied and pasted the code from the drops into the comics, and so when they optimized the normal drops, they didn't apply the same changes to the comics. Maybe they just forgot to do that and they haven't got around to doing it. So that's why, as the normal drops had improved in terms of their syncing with the clock, removing the cancel button, etc., those changes were never reflected with the comics, and people will notice that if you're trying to do a line gate on the comics and you tap really fast, the button kind of grays out. That's like an old thing that the collectibles used to have, but then they fixed it. So that aside, as you can see, I was doing the drop. Here you can see I hit the buy now, and I managed to secure successfully. And then what you can see is, oh, that's the capture. So yeah, I started going for the rebound at about 2 minutes. You can see the time just turned 2 minutes here. And there you go, hit the rebound and then got a capture. They didn't give me the capture the first time, it gave me the capture the second time. So what are a few things that I do to prepare for a drop now? I don't mind sharing these tips just because I don't really care if I make it harder for myself. The drop system's going to change anyway. It's going to be a lottery system. So, it is what it is. But basically, the best tip that I have to secure drops, the majority of the time, and this is my best tip, is I go on time.is. And why do I do that? Well, my device is quite powerful. It's a Samsung Galaxy S21. If your device isn't as powerful, iPhone 13s, those tend to have no problem, but depending on the processing power of your phone, that's going to affect how accurately your phone can sync to the drop timer. Now, the normal collectible drops, they fixed it. However, comics, they never fixed it. So you have to essentially keep going back and forth from the drop, going in and out, and just checking against time.is or time.gov, whatever website is you use, to make sure that the clock countdown is in sync with time.is or time.gov. You may have to do this several times, because the first time you go into a drop, you can see that it loads for a little while, and when you go out and go back in, it loads faster. The faster it loads, the more accurately your clock is usually going to be synced. So you just have to keep going back and forth until your clock and time.is are synced enough. You may not be able to get it perfect, but having a few milliseconds better than what it would normally be, like that makes a difference. And that's what I usually do. I just try and sync it as close as possible. I can't get it perfect, but it's enough. And a lot of people don't know about this, so they kind of just go into the drop, they go in and out, a few times, 30 seconds before, and then whatever happens is they just click. Sometimes if you go in and out, sometimes it actually starts to clock back even further because it just coincidentally took a bit longer to load that time. So, it depends, it varies, but, I would say 2 minutes before the drop, just try and sync up with time.is, and then don't exit that page anymore once you think you've got it close enough. And then the other thing is, when you do hit drop and you hit the buy now button on comics specifically, is wait a little bit on that green truck and then press OK, because sometimes if I do it fast, it just goes from buy now to the sold out button. I've noticed if I leave the green truck up for a little bit and then click I'm done, sometimes the buy now stays, so I don't need to try and refresh the buy now by going in and out. It's there for me to use the line gate with again. Okay, so The next thing is we have the drop tomorrow, Run English Serial Killers. Now, this is what people suspect is because this is the final season of Serial Killers, final series, we may either unlock some kind of cool interactive effect, which you get once you have all three fully complete series. I think because they've spoken about this for so long, and just based off of past history, like when we talked about the ghost trap sucking up the Slimer, they spoke a lot about recreating the big last fat breakfast. I think there will be some kind of special effect. That's probably why they delayed these Run English drops for a while, because I remember they were supposed to come out like once every month, but they kind of made it come out like once every 2 months. But I'm okay with that. Like, that's cool stuff. But yeah, the ultra rare is pretty cool. I myself am not going to go for the ultra rare. I'm going for the rare just because I know what my luck is like. I don't think I'm going to get to hit the ultra rare. And that's also why I tend to have decent luck with hitting drops, is I don't get too greedy and go for the rarest variant, just because I know how many people are going for it. I tend to go like one down. That greatly increases my chances. So yeah, that is that. Now, lastly is the OMI utility program. So had a full look through this. I do have a few concerns and a few things that I think are great. So firstly, if we go through, it is separate to the Master Collector program. First, it has a staking program. And now, first question I got asked is, why can't you stake OMI for OMI? Well, you can't do that because that would be in breach of compliance. You can't stake a token for more tokens if you are not doing any form of work. Now, people say, oh, I can stake my Dogecoins for more Dogecoins, blah, blah, blah. Well, yes, you can. You can do that with OMI as well, and it has been done with OMI. But go back to the key point that I just said, is it must be involved in some form of work. When you stake coins in liquidity pools, your tokens are used to provide liquidity, i.e. they're doing work for that exchange. If you just lock up your OMI tokens on the VeVe app, and that's all you've done, and they're not really used for anything, and you're expecting more OMI tokens for doing that, that is in breach of compliance. That would make OMI security, because now it's essentially the same as being paid dividends, which is something you get if you're holding a security, not if you're holding a cryptocurrency. So that could get VeVe into legal troubles. They could get sued. Your investment goes, to nothing, and then you start crying. So yeah, that's not what we want. However, there are ways to get around it. What they can do is they can reward you in NFTs rather than OMI. And that actually could potentially end up being a better option. Depending on what NFTs you get, you may actually be able to sell them for more than what you would have gotten for staking the OMI. So, it's a workaround. I think it works. So, you get the OMI freely and profile badge, accessory purchases with OMI, premium market listings, and % bonus on all points earned for the first lockup. Staking 1,000 OMI. Now, I had a look at the next tier, and then the final tier, you need $10,000 of OMI. So, I suspect this is going to apply some buy pressure on OMI, but I think a lot of the serious VeVe people, they kind of already have quite a lot of OMI already, so I don't know how many more people are going to be like, hey, let me go buy some OMI because you get into tier 3, because I feel like a lot of people do have a significant amount of OMI already. But we'll wait and see. Maybe it will incentivize a lot of people who haven't delved into crypto but only in VeVe to finally get some OMI. Now, the withdrawal fee, this is a big one. So, if you do stake but you want to pull out your funds early, you are subject to a 10% fee, which means that 10% is going to be burned, which is fine. But secondary market stuff, this is pretty important. Now, this was discussed on an AMA I did, the Millennial OMI AMA with Daniel Lee, Taps Trades, Wannabe Champ, and Reese. So Reese told us that back then that they were looking at implementing a system where you would pay the fees in gems, so that the gems can be used to pay the licensors, and the rest of the OMI goes to whoever is that selling a collectible for OMI. That seems to, in theory, work, and it's good to see that's what they've gone for. However, they are subject to feedback and changing this. So I think this is a very good option. Now, they have kind of gone through the drop raffle system. Now, the drop raffle system, I'm kind of on the fence about this. So I think it is a good thing that people can get a collectible early if they kind of buy raffle tickets using their OMI. At the same time, I know people will kind of complain and say, it's more tailored towards, this system that kind of rewards whales now. I think that's the one end, but people say, so I think it's all about balance, right? I think it's perfectly fine if they reserve a small amount of the collectibles for people who just want to do the raffle using their OMI, and then the rest, the normal whatever lottery system is that they want to implement. I think that's fine. But at the same time, we have been waiting for more utility for OMI, so I think it makes sense that you should be able to use your OMI to get, places in these OMI utility raffles. That's perfectly cool as well. So yeah, I think as long as the balance is there, this is a very good system. I'm personally, I'm happy with that. But of course, we'll need to see it in practice. Does it work? If not, or if it doesn't work as well, then yeah, let's open up some suggestions, feedback, and see how we can improve this. But at the same time, I did speak about an AMA on this. Is let's say there's $100 collectible. I have the option of buying $200 worth of raffle tickets to greatly increase my chance, which is more than what the collectible costs. Or I could end up paying, maybe $500 or $600 for the collectible to a flipper. I would much rather my money, which I'm paying in excess of retail, go to VeVe the company, rather than to someone who's just flipping. That's kind of my view. But if it's something I want and I have to pay a premium, then that is what it is. So yeah, we have the premium market listings as well. I think this is going to do really well for people who want to sell special mint numbers. Because if you've got like a very special mint number, it won't really show up anywhere unless there's someone actually looking for that mint number. So I think these premium market listings are going to be fantastic for people with special mints. And then they've spoken about the roadmap here. So again, personally, if there are dates associated with this, don't pay too much attention to the dates, because things always go wrong to slow things down. And yeah, they've spoken about the exchanges here. Again, once they are immutable, we will have other exchanges. Now, lastly, we have the price of OMI for today. So previously I said that OMI, it could see these levels of 0.5 cents here, and that's exactly what it did. It came down a week below the 0.55 cent range, and that's kind of where we are. So we are hanging steady on this key point of support. If I just zoom in. Now, the rest of the crypto market has come down a lot. That makes sense, but I think the crypto market coming down kind of catalyzed the whales that was selling in response to the the slightly underwhelming utility from the OMI utility program. But I personally think for now they've done a pretty good job at it. However, there are improvements to be made, and I'm sure they will make those improvements. It just comes down to get feedback into the team, being constructive with them, and not expecting too much, but just being understanding of what they can do and what they can't do within legal constraints, technological constraints, etc. But what do I see happening with OMI? Well, I think now is actually a good time to buy, and I haven't bought OMI in a long time. I haven't bought OMI since July, actually, because I've been focusing on other projects. So if I was to buy OMI, I would be buying around these levels, just because we haven't seen levels this low since when is this, like last month, and that was like kind of just like wicked on this trend line here. So yeah, once the market recovers, I think OMI will probably see these kind of mid 0.7 cent levels, and I think that's where it's going to kind of like continue to trade until we get onto Munawer X and they announce some nice exchanges. I don't think we will see 1 cent until that happens. And when could that happen? Well, I was expecting Munawer X this month, but I guess we'll have to wait and see next month. Whenever that happens, and it happens, that's when I suspect we'll finally see some new exchanges. But maybe it might even happen next month, because Christmas is coming, and we know that a lot of people tend not to work over Christmas, so maybe it will happen next year. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's gonna happen. It will happen when it happens. So if you're not in a rush to take out your money, then just enjoy the ride. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to go through with you guys today. Please do like, subscribe, support the content. Check out the link below for the official OMI Homie merch, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.